Welcome back to Midlife Unleashed. Today, we're zooming out. We've talked fitness, food, confidence, habits, but now it's time to step into the bigger picture. Because midlife isn't just about feeling better, it's about leading better. Because when your
Mm,
energy is right, your habits are aligned, and your mindset is strong, you become the kind of person others naturally follow. So, Doug
mhm.
is here to walk us through how midlife can be the most powerful leadership chapter of your life. And if you learn how to lead yourself first, you're in good shape. So, Doug, let's get
Great
started.
shape.
I'm so excited for episode 14. Good to be back.
Yes, good to see you. Good to see you. We
Good to
both
see you
been,
too.
dealing with stuff. So I'm glad to see
Life.
you. Glad to see you.
Glad to see you too. All
Mm,
right, so let's dive in, right? So,
okay.
why do you think that so many people in midlife feel like they're running everyone else's life, but barely really leading their own?
Yeah, well, at some point in time in midlife, we kind of give up intention for obligation.
Mm,
Right? And midlife is a time when you hit peak responsibilities. You got kids, you got career, you got aging parents, you got mortgages, we got community roles. And so it seems like everybody has a slice of your calendar and you're pretty much stuck, with the crumbs. And the trap is that, you kind of become excellent at managing other people's needs, but your direction is kind of on autopilot. And so you kind of wake up feeling like you're busy, but you're unfulfilled.
yeah, that does make a lot of sense. There's life, you're being grabbed in so many different ways. It's easy to
Hmm.
lose the focus on yourself, right?
Sure,
But
sure. You got to move from like being the manager of other people's expectations to like the CEO of your own time and energy. So it's not like you fired the responsibilities because they're always going to be there, but you just got to start managing them with clarity about where your energy kind of goes.
absolutely. And what would you say, or would you say that there is a mindset shift that starts to reverse that?
Yeah, well, it's that whole oxygen principle. Like we've all been on planes and we get the speech every single time, right? If something goes wrong and it's going down, put your own mask on first.
Mhm.
And that's really what has to happen. You got to put your own mask on first and you got to lead yourself first so that you're more effective in leading others. And that's kind of like the mindset shift.
Absolutely. That's such a good analogy.
Hmm.
And you often talk about leading yourself first, right? But what does that actually mean? And what does that look like in daily life?
Yeah. So leading yourself first is kind of like a compass, right? It means that you're waking up each day with intentions or you're intentionally aligned, right? It's like, oh, what do I want to be today or how do I want to show up today, in my work, in my family, in my relationships, in my mindset. And so it's a way of actually being versus doing.
Okay, I like that, being versus doing. And how is it different from just, you know, having a morning routine or a fitness plan? How does that differ?
Yeah, like the whole morning routine, which is good, and same thing with a fitness plan, but those are like checklists, right? Those are like tools, right? But self leadership is much deeper, right? It's about making decisions with identity in mind, right? Not just checking something off the list and just doing it. You know what I mean? Like a morning routine would be like, I meditate 10 minutes a day, right? Whereas, if we're talking about self leadership, you're talking about I'm a person who protects my space and my peace so that I can leave my family without snapping on them. Right. Right. As an example, or like a or a routine would be like, I go to the gym for an hour a day, or half an hour a day. Whereas when we're talking about self leadership, it's much bigger. That's someone who says, I want to be an example for my family of health, and I want to be around, and I want longevity so I can, provide or, be an integral part of my family. And that's very different. One is about doing and the other is really about being. And that's what
Mhm.
like leadership, leading yourself first means. It's all about being.
Being. All right. And what would you say are maybe some signs that someone has stopped leading themselves, even if their life looks successful on the outside? Are there any indicators or anything that really, or any signs really that make it apparent that they've stopped leading themselves?
Oh, oh yeah. No, that's a good question. And we've all, I know I've experienced this myself, and there's plenty of signs. And so the first is that your calendar owns you, right? Your book's solid, but it doesn't reflect like your priorities. So that's the first thing. Your calendar's kind of taking control of you versus you taking control of it. The second would be that like your success feels kind of hollow, right?
Mhm.
Like you've been successful, you hit some metrics, whether that be income or promotion or owning a home, but you still feel unfulfilled, right? And then there's the energy leaks, right? You constantly feel tired, resentful, maybe even burned out. And this happens when nothing is really even wrong. You just don't have the energy, you know? And then lastly, you're constantly in reactive mode,
Mm.
right? You only act when there's something that's urgent, whether it's an email, text, or some sort of fire, but you're always in that urgency mode versus being in that, or you're in that reactive mode versus being proactive. So the problem is you look good on social media, right? LinkedIn, or in other people's eyes, but you're still kind of lost in your own story.
Mhm. Absolutely. And how would you maybe help someone reclaim their agency without making it overwhelming? Are there any things you could recommend or advice you'd think of?
Yeah, well, always start small because now you're trying to make some change, and it's one decision a day. Just make one decision a day where you put your values over obligations before, your obligations. And doesn't mean you're cutting your obligations off. You're just making your values more of a responsibility. And it just could be something little like, not going, saying no to a meeting so you can go for a walk,
Mm.
right? And then you slowly, daily, you start to build on that until you feel a little bit more balanced, until like you realize, hey, my values are getting attention. I'm doing the things that I want to do and I'm meeting my obligations. But you gotta do it one boundary at a time. And, that's how you kind of build that leadership muscle up.
Right. Like you have to put you on the calendar for you. Like,
You do. You do. I mean, like that's a priority. And, a lot of people are, focused on, I don't want to say everyone else, but, they're managing and handling a lot of things that really don't give them the joy and the excitement that they're looking for.
mhm, absolutely. And are there maybe any symptoms or subtle symptoms between drifting versus leading at all? Or there's anything that comes to mind with that?
Yeah. Well, are you on autopilot? That's
Mm.
the drifting. You're, nothing's coming through you, right? It's just you're just doing things. Whereas with leadership, it's more of a proactive role and things are actually coming through you, right? You're making the things happen that you want versus just being on autopilot and kind of just handling things as they come.
Absolutely. It's so easy to get stuck on autopilot too. I mean, especially I'm midlife, but it's so easy to just kind of get caught in that on a regular basis.
Well, you're
And
getting pulled in so many directions,
right.
you know? So that, like you said, is very easy because you're busy and you're doing stuff. And I'm not saying it's not important stuff, but you also got to get that stuff that like excites you and fills you with purpose. And the thing is, the more you do of that, the easier it is to be there and meet those other expectations as well.
Absolutely. And time management is such a big part of self leadership in
Mm.
life, but especially in midlife, right? When you have all these things going on. So,
Sure.
how do you coach people to get control of their calendar, their energy, and their priorities?
Well, with my Perfect Scale Academy, we start off with, first of all, spending time on purpose and mission statement, health mission statement. And then from there, we dive down into the systems and creating systems that will allow us to actually accomplish our purpose and our mission. But from there, we dip into the time management because when you create those systems, you identify non-negotiables, right? And the way that I work with people and coach them in terms of time management, it's really, it's three big pillars, right? And the first thing that we put in is those non-negotiables, but you got to know what those are. Right. And so the workouts and the sleep and the family time, all those things that they're non-negotiables, those are the most important. They go in first, right?
Hmm.
And so you get those on the calendar, you get those in because, we talk about time management, but you really can't manage time, right? You can manage your energy and you can manage your intention.
Hmm.
Those are two things that you got control over, right? And so that's how we want to build out that calendar. So again, the first thing we put in, non-negotiables, all right?
Hmm.
Second thing we want to put in is those high ROI activities, right? Those 20/80, that Pareto principle, that 20% of things that's going to give us 80% of our results, or
Hmm.
those quadrant 2 activities, right? Those are the things that are going to give us the big bang for our buck. We want to get as much of those in the calendar next as possible, right? And then the third thing that I kind of coach on is energy boundaries, right? You
Okay.
can't just put tasks in your calendars. And that's what a lot of us do and have been taught to do. And you put all these tasks in, but you also got to manage your energy and you also got to manage your recovery. And you also got to manage some time for reflection or solitude or quiet time. And so you got to build that into the calendar also. So those are the three things, that I like to coach initially to be put into your calendar or your time management, because those are the three that are going to give us the biggest bang for our buck, right? We got to make sure that those non-negotiables, those things that are so important to us, are built in. We got to make sure those things that give us that high reward are built in so that we don't let the little stuff get in there. We don't want to major in the minors. And then next, we want to make sure that we're protecting our energy, right? So that we can continue to give, in a way that we want to, but also is very useful to the people in our world. And the only way to do that is we got to protect the energy. So we got to schedule that in there too, along with
Hmm.
tasks.
Are there any things particular that come to mind when you talk about that, like protecting the energy and those energy boundaries? Like, what would an example be of that, if you have one?
Well, in terms of, midlife, we kind of overcommit.
Mm-hmm.
There's a tendency to overcommit, right? And so yes to this, yes to that, yes to this, okay. And when you're a yes man or woman, and when you keep saying yes, ultimately every time you say yes, you're saying no to yourself, and to some of the things that you really want to do, and so you gotta learn how to, make a hard no. And I find the people that I know who are the happiest and most successful at midlife, and who I've coached or who I've learned from or who I see, they have no problem saying that doesn't fit my priorities. No,
Mm-hmm.
and so, that's how you protect your energy boundaries and the things that you actually do,
Hmm.
by simply learning how to say no.
Absolutely. And I think that that's something that is just hard for a lot of people in general to say no to things
Oh
because
yeah.
there's so many people pleasers. We just want to, and we want to say yes half the time because we want to, but saying no is okay and it's important. It doesn't have to be a negative thing, which I feel like that's rooted in us for a lot of people. You hear no and you
Yeah.
think negative.
Yeah. Well, saying no is okay. Saying
Absolutely.
no is okay. It's a you got to look at it as when you say no, you say yes to yourself, right? There's
Absolutely.
only so much time, which is why I say you can't manage the time. You got to manage your energy and your intention. What is it that you're desiring?
Hmm. Absolutely. And what's one boundary that people over 40 often don't set, but they absolutely should?
Well, the saying the no is the one thing.
Hmm.
you know,
Right.
like that's probably the biggest boundary, you know. And then the other thing is, working on those non-negotiables. If like there's a reason why we call it a non-negotiable. There's nothing to talk about. And so if you've got non-negotiables and you're trying to be everything and do everything and manage everything for all these areas, something's going to give. And
Hmm.
oftentimes when people feel unfulfilled or they feel unhappy, it's because they've kind of compromised those non-negotiables. And that's really
Absolutely.
not something that you want to do. So, between that and between, saying no and not trying to fulfill everything, I think those are the two biggest, you know,
Absolutely.
that's where you'll have the two biggest bang for your buck if you address those two areas.
Hmm. Absolutely. And then every other thing can stem from that. And you've coached so many clients through this shift from reactive to intentional, right? So
Mm, mm.
is there maybe one story that really stands out to you where someone just truly stepped into leadership in their own life that comes to mind?
Well, man, that's a good question. I mean, so many people that I work with, even now, everybody's kind of tied into that.
Hmm.
But there's been so many people. I guess someone comes to mind was a leader, which is interesting because she was a leader, a VP at a very big company. Had the title, had the income, had the zip code. Had all those metrics that we like to see and hear. And she came into because she wanted to lose some weight. She wanted to lose some weight and get some more energy, and she kept missing the training appointments. And
Mm,
so when we sat down and talked, she just said she felt like she was on a treadmill, and
mm,
everything was kind of happening to her. And she really needed to do some more personal self leadership. She was leading great in her work world, and so, she put some boundaries in. We put those energy boundaries in, right? No more emails after a certain time. Um,
mhm,
she prioritized working out and actually meal prepping because for her, she wanted more time with her kids and more energy, right? And so, and then we worked on saying no to those obligations or those events that really weren't lifting her, and by doing those three things, within, I don't know, it probably was 4 months, 5 months, she was feeling so much better about herself because she had control over her life again. Right. And, it actually ended up, she did better at work because now
wow.
she wasn't burned out. And now she, felt fulfilled. And like I said, you got to put that oxygen mask on first. That self leadership comes from you. And once you feel that way, then you're able to help more people. And,
Mhm.
odd thing is she ended up getting promoted and leaving the state of
Wow.
Connecticut. So I don't work with her anymore, but it's a great example of how somebody went from reactivity to like intentional self leadership,
Mhm.
and I think, the key for all of us, we hear these titles, in business, CEO, CFO, all these titles, but we're also the CEO and the CFO of our own life. Right, right. I see the money coming into my checking account. I'm responsible for how those funds are allocated and what goes on. And
Mhm.
we're all the CEOs of our own life. And if we don't take that intentional self leadership serious, then we're going to be walking around feeling unfulfilled, and just going through the motions, you know.
Absolutely.
So it's a very important thing that we kind of realize that we have that responsibility as the CEO in our own life. And you know what? If it's not going well, then just fire the CEO
Right. You gotta
and
start
replace
over.
another one and replace it. You can
Mhm.
replace it. You can replace the way you think and how you feel and what you do. And so if you're not liking the way that goes, well, that's cool. Let's get another CEO in here. Let's make those
Mhm.
changes necessary. That's all.
Yeah, no, it's such a good way to think about it too. And when you think about it in that context, like obviously you make your own decisions, but having that mindset switch of like, I'm the CEO of me, I'm my boss. I work for people, or I might have a team of people, and I step into this for all of them. But what about my day to day for me? Like it is such
There you
a
go. There you
mindset
go.
shift.
There you go. And that's the self leadership. That's
Hmm.
intentional.
Absolutely. Like setting those intentions for yourself. And I think that this is such an important thing for people to hear, because you won't think about it particularly unless you hear it from someone. So I think that what you said probably for all the listeners probably clicked. Like I know it clicked for me. It just made that mindset shift for me for sure. And so, what's one area in your life right now where you're actively trying to lead yourself to better?
Yeah. Right now, probably digital boundaries. Right,
Mm-hmm.
right.
It's
Being an
hard.
entrepreneur, yeah, and a business owner, and having employees and a professor, and I could let my phone like ruin my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I find myself being frustrated that I can't do some of the things that I want to do. And the truth of the matter is I needed to set better digital boundaries, and that's what I'm working on. So the phone goes into another room, at 9 o'clock. I'm not doing any mindless scrolling anymore at night like so many of us do, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not responding to emails. I got set times off so that my brain can relax and get clear, and I'm using that additional time to kind of read and write and get back to writing this, second book that I want to get done. And
Mm-hmm.
so I had to set some personal, again, self leadership, you know, and realize that, I need to set some boundaries around this digital stuff because I'm spending too much time on it. And the truth of the matter is I'm not getting the benefit of it that I
Mm-hmm.
want. Like that's not my 20% of stuff that gives me 80% of joy, right? So I'm
Mm-hmm.
spending all this time for this little bit of joy. So that really had to go. And that's what life is about. And that's what that intentional self-leadership is about. It's like something that you have to assess and do every day. Like I said, I'm the CEO, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
nobody else's responsibility but mine to kind of fix it, right? Or address it. And then you just, like we're not perfect, we're humans. So you just address it every day, you work on it, and you got to work on it every day. That's the key because if you don't, then those old habits just start to creep right back in and you wind up frustrated and kind of back where you were. But, we're all work in progress. And that's one of the areas that, for me, that I'm really kind of drilling down on, right now.
Yeah, that's a good one because everyone can relate to that. I think we're all probably guilty of too much screen time and losing focus of other things because there's so much digital activity going on, whether you work from your phone, whether you're just on social media,
Oh, yeah.
doom scrolling, the term doom scrolling, where you just scroll and scroll and you're like, look at the phone like, oh my God, I have been scrolling for hours. So I
Right.
think that that's something good as like being your own CEO to just notice your habits and notice where you can make those changes and notice what needs to be changed in order to be better. I think that's a good one probably for all of us. I know I'm
Yeah,
guilty
well,
of doing
the question to ask yourself, and
Mhm.
this is like what got for me is what was the value I just got out of that?
Right.
Like I spent all this time, right? And it's interrupting me sometimes. Some people, you know, your phone's just sitting there, whatever goes off, the little alerts, and now you stop what you're doing and get into it. And then next thing you know, you just lost another 15 minutes. But what is the value that you're getting out of that? Right? Does
Absolutely.
that support your 2080? No.
hmm
So you're
Absolutely.
not
Like,
missing anything.
mm, and it allows so much more time for other things that do matter, like you said. Because I know you've mentioned the second book, so I know that that's something that you've been trying to work on
Yep.
and get to. So that's a good thing to have another goal in mind too, to kind of motivate you to not be on your phone, for example, so much. So
Hmm.
having something that you really see to better yourself or something you want to do, having that goal, I think is probably also helpful. And I'm excited to hear about the second book, by the
Oh
way.
yeah. Let me tell you, this is going to be very, very, very good. You know, it's 20 years in the making, so to speak. I haven't
Mhm.
been researching and writing it for 20 years, but all of the information that I've learned in 20 years of coaching people and helping people get healthy and helping people lose weight and keep the weight off and learn my principles and apply them, all of it's going to be wrapped in to one book that's going to be entertaining and fun, but also educational.
Absolutely. I'm excited. You're gonna have to keep me and all of our listeners updated on that progress too, because I
Sure.
know we've talked about it, but I'm excited to
Sure.
know it's in the making.
Hmm. Hmm.
But so Doug, this was an episode. It was so good to be back. So good to do episode 14 of Midlife Unleashed. And this episode was definitely a reminder that midlife doesn't ask us to shrink, right? It asks us to rise. So to stop chasing balance and start claiming leadership. And it doesn't start in the office or at the gym. It starts right here. This is how we lead ourselves. It starts with you being your own CEO of your own life. And to anyone listening, if this hits home at all, if this resonated with you, send it to someone you respect, send it to someone who needs to hear it. And remember, midlife isn't the end of your story, it's where you learn to write your own terms. So
Hmm.
thanks so much, Doug.
No problem. Thank you.